And that is a criticism, an outright criticism of the movement. And if all of us would say we're Garveyites, would say we're Pan-Africanists, something's gone wrong. Why is there this elitist attitude? Well, people think it's okay to have meetings and sit down and have this, this event 1 year and then go back to the plantation. But when you study Garvey and what Garvey was doing, they were out on the streets 24/7. Garvey, after he finished his meetings, would go and get ladders, climb up on the ladders, lean them up against buildings and get a speaker and be out all night on the street talking to roadman and roadwoman. He talked to everybody. The other part as to why is it that the baby mother is saying Kush doesn't know
people outside?
Why is it that the bookie in these people? Well, most people aren't interested in politics per se. And so there's, as well as Pan-Africanists sometimes taking the wrong approach to the majority of our people representing Garvey to them, there's also the flip side of that. The propaganda that's been done that if you associate with Garvey, you're a black militant, you've got issues. You can't get on with anybody who's not black, and anything you do is just black, 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 black. And so people have an issue with that, and that's part of the propaganda that was done against Marcus Garvey and to tarnish his image. The third and final part I wanted to say is, why are the people out there not getting Garvey? It's quite simple. The philosophy of Garvey has been bastardized and has been misrepresented to the people. Garvey's philosophy is very simple. It's not complex. Garvey said, if you could summarize my life's work in 3 words, it's simple. Garvey said, I came to teach self-love. Teach self-love. Why is it that when we come across Pan-Africanists, we never get that vibration and energy of self-love? Why is it? Because if our people aren't into politics, then what are they into? They're into religion and spirituality. Then surely you could turn that philosophy of self-love into a religion of some sort to galvanize the people. To say that what Garvey was teaching us to do was to love ourselves. Garvey says, you're a sovereign man, you're a sovereign woman, you are made in the image of God. Therefore, you have a duty to your Creator to be excellence. Just like leagcy says there, pioneering excellence. That's an African trait. That's part of our culture and our heritage. And that's what Garvey was about. So it's very clear, he came to teach self-love, but we don't get him from the sense of self-love. We never hear Garvey from that perspective in those very sort of loving terms. And I think we also need a new metaphysics of Garvey. And maybe that's the work out there for someone to do, to say, right, how are we now going to represent Garvey to the people with this message of self-love at the core and take it from there? And that's what I think. And it's not to knock heavy on the Garveyites and the Pan-Africans, because there are people out there who do some good works. You understand? But there's also some drunkos out there that need to be called out for what they are, and they're mashing up the legacy.
Yes, respect, Sister Korea. I kind of sympathize with your analysis related to Pan-Africanism. Not that I agree with it, but I think we're all learning and developing, and what I used to believe yesterday, hopefully I will know tomorrow. And a lot of people are actually just expressing what they know, and so we can't really take someone's view of Pan-Africanism as being complete and total, because we are all in a state of development. I see Marcus Garvey organization, the UNIA, as a Pan-Africanist organization, whether people call it that or not, because it embraces all African people wherever they are on this planet. And if they're out of space, they're included as well. Right, so that's how I see Pan-Africanism. But of course there are socialist Pan-Africanists and there are capitalist Pan-Africanists. And that's a confusion that people are looking at socialism separate from Pan-Africanism. And perhaps the world that has been oppressing us and dividing us right, politically, will divide us between socialism and capitalism.
Isn't that the issue? Because when I hear ism,
yes.
telling you personally, I switch off.
So
isn't that isn't and all that?
Right. So you can be divided politically, you can be divided religiously, right? But if we are clear-minded as African people, we will not follow the labels. What's important is that we build an institution which is based on knowledge, not on what we believe, but on knowledge, proven facts, processes, things that work, things that solve problems, and develop a culture of problem solving amongst us, rather than belief system that divides us.
Give thanks, Brother Marco. But how do we bring Garvey's end to the man outside of the king? I said, how do we bring Garvey's end to the man outside of the king? Is Garvey's end for?
I think we need to embed Garveyism into every facet of our culture. And I also feel that, our biggest fight and struggle, in my view, is to wrestle the education of our children, because they are the future and stuff. And we have to create curriculum where we embed these things cleverly into it. Currently, there's talk about a black curriculum. We've all heard that. But I say, to what end? Because if the curriculum is going to be taught in the general schools, it's going to be watered down. 50 years from now, we're still going to be having the same conversation. Our story, Garveyism, we have to take control of the narrative. We've seen what they've done with Martin Luther King. They've turned him into a dreamer to suit them. Yes, he wasn't a dreamer. And we can't afford to have that. As to whether there's a hierarchy in the Garvey movement, I think that people tend to feel that they own information. But information belongs to everybody, and stuff. Nonetheless, we can't allow that to stop us. We have to forge ahead and make sure that this Garvey's philosophies is actually embedded in all areas of people activity. As to whether or not, I believe that the UNIA was a Pan-Africanist organization. As Garvey said, Africa for Africans, those at home and abroad. Somebody else said, you're not an African because you were born in Africa, you're an African because Africa's born in you. So, that's my little...
Okay, thank you very much. Tony, directing the Marcus play, how are you going to make sure that the message of Marcus Garvey is applicable to your youngest person in the audience and the oldest person in the audience then?
Good question. First of all, the writer, she couldn't be here today, Sarah. Sarah's written a wonderful, wonderful play. And the way that we are, the audience for this play is family, so that's young and old. And the way that that message is portrayed is actually through the main character, which actually, you'll be surprised to know, isn't Marcus Garvey. It's actually a young black man called Jermaine. So yes, Marcus Garvey is made, obviously, but Jermaine, the young man Jermaine, he is the main character. And there was a reason why we did this, is pretty much talking to everything you've just been speaking about. Because when I speak to my children about Marcus Garvey, they know about him because I have delivered Black History drama workshops over 21 years, even though I look 21 seconds. Over 20, thank you for the laughter. I love a bit of love. So
active listening, thank you, my sister.
So, for over 20 odd years now that I've been delivering. So what I do is I've got all these great Black historical characters who I get every young person that I've taught in the schools everybody involved. So it doesn't matter what colour they are, I get them all involved because I need them all to know who these great inventors, these great innovators, these great entrepreneurs are. So in this play, what's amazing is that the young character, he is given a book from his late his grandfather. They call him Papa. So he's been given the book, and this book changes his life a bit like Imani, a bit like it. So you find out about Garvey in your kind of way you're on road or whatever, not on road, not putting words, but you get what I mean. Yeah, however it went down. But this young gentleman in the play is called Marcus, by the way. He is in a family which is a little bit, it's not dysfunctional, but there's difficulties because there was a death in the family and there's difficulties. And
we know how that goes.
Exactly.
We know how that goes.
So it just creates that tension. It creates those fractions. And there's no unity there. And so this young person, by reading and really digging deep into Marx's world and his life, he starts to kind of bring forth those kind of teachings into his life. Yeah? And that's how we flip the script on the situation. You get me? That's how we flip the script, because it's about, so I personally feel, to answer a little bit of the question before, how do we engage those other people, the young people, the people out on road, or people out on the street, whichever. It's not, the solution isn't just like that, fair enough. But personally, the only thing I can speak to is, for me as a creative, I always use the creative arts as a tool, as a springboard, as a way, as a way to kind of engage and to educate and to bring people in on the story, yeah? And that's what we are doing. That's our stance on it. I can't change the world in that way, but just one little bit of my little input as a creative with other creatives, all together now, we can engage a new audience. That's what I'm hoping and praying for. And just stepping into what you were saying, in the play, we look at the whole thing of self-love. We do look at that, which is it's a strong ingredient. So I'm not going to say any more about that.
Yeah, because they're going to want to watch it.
That's a plug. Go watch it.
Just quickly, just carrying on from what you said in the play. That is precisely what I'm talking about. Embedding this knowledge into all areas of our people's activity. So they don't have to learn, it's already subliminally there. So we need, in fact, as I said, that's our biggest fight. We need to fight to separate our education, because that's the only way we are ever going to.
Well, it's like I said earlier, if you say to a young person, I'm going to an event, it's about Marcus Garvey, or I'm going to an event, yeah, it's been run by Garvey's, the Garveyites, they might be looking at me going, I don't understand. So I'm not saying we change that, but I'm saying that we're able to get that message out through the creative mediums, through film, TV, and theatre. That's my stance, only because that's what I do. I do TV, film, and theatre, so that's why I'm doing that.
And even though we're talking about Marcus Garvey, that question, when I created that question, I thought about Malcolm X. If anybody knows Malcolm X, you know that Malcolm X never started off as Malcolm X, Detroit Red, The Devil, Tech Drugs, Sleeping with White Woman, all kind of thing, and look who he ended up being. So the reason why I posed that question is because I think that there's a lot of people out there, as young people who I was 20 years ago is very different from who I am here, who I am today. Same with many of you in the audience, same as, you know what I mean? So my thing is, are we shunning people away from the movement? Yeah, are we shunning people away from embracing, not just even Garveyism, but anything that's culturally beneficial because of our application and because of our approach and because of, you know, the language that we use and how we make our flyers? All of those things have an effect. Who are we talking to when we create events like this? You know what I mean? Who is the target audience? So it's just something I want us to even think about in our own personal lives when we're disseminating information. Because people like to learn, but not everybody likes to be taught. That's one thing I've learned as an educator myself. You know what I mean? If many of us, if I was to go on Instagram, for example, and say, right, 3 o'clock, I'm going to be teaching you how to, I don't know, make fried dumpling. Yeah? I'll probably have 2 people on my life, right? If I left the video on how to make fried dumpling, I'll probably get 500 views. So my point is that a lot of people don't want to be seen to be sitting down at the foot of somebody and learning, because that's ego and all of those kind of things. So as an educator, if your intention is to genuinely educate, you will be like very aware about your approach, obviously for different audiences as well. You will know who you're talking to and who you want to engage, and that's with all of us. So that's just okay.
Just going back to your question, how do we get the message across? I think it was 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? I think it was on radio. I decided I wanted to bring Marcus Garvey to the people, but I wanted the men to do it. And I didn't want to be the person to host a radio show. I wanted a young man to do it, to show that black men could work together. So I put a message out, about 52 brothers came forward, which ended up choosing 31. These brother Manny, you came to the last show, didn't you? Yeah. Brother Simon, I see there, and maybe there's some others in the audience as well. There's one, yes, there you go, from Blue Skincare. So the brothers came forward, and we rehearsed. I gave them the speeches, we rehearsed, we practiced, we went to the studio. Brother Faisha, I can see you there. They really came forward, and I'm sure they could talk about how they learned. The beauty of it, though, the reason why we did it wasn't just for their own benefit to have an exercise and reading the Garvey message. It was so that it would then impact. You have that multiplying effect. Like you say, if you make the video for the dumpling and it's just 2 people, 500 people, next minute 1,000, you wake up next week, 100,000 people learn how to make dumpling, you know? And that was the purpose of doing those shows. Black History Month, from October the 1st to the 31st, make sure the community every single day got a speech from Garvey. By the men doing that, they then wanted to get to, some of them had the books naturally, because they're Garvey, some of them didn't though, never knew about Garvey. The young brother who came forward as the host was fantastic. He was brilliant. So some of them wanted to then go and do the research for themselves, because they'd never heard these messages from Garvey. That's why you always have to go to the horse, Brother Simon said it. Get the books yourself and read for yourself. Don't let nobody tell you who somebody was. Read the person's words for yourself. The beauty that's now come from that, we've made some contact with a book publisher in America who's been in this business for over 40 years. Some of you know, I love audiobooks. We've got 3 top reggae artists, I'm not going to call their names, this is going on YouTube, who've now come forward to say they want to read Marcus Garvey's philosophy, opinions 1, 2, 3, and message to the people. And that's how you get the
That's a definite way of it, exactly. I was going to say, I hope you mentioned your audio books, because I know when you was initially coming up with the idea, I know we spoke about that, and that was one of the ways as well, because we know that people either haven't got time or haven't got the desire to really sit down and read, but somebody will put their headphones on and listen to an audio book while you're cooking, at the gym, doing whatever you're doing, you know what I mean?
Young artists who are top of their game right now, and they're like, yo, put us on the
Yeah, man. Yeah, 100%. Right, moving on. Fuck, this question's a bit hot, you know. And I'll let you know now. So, 3 tenets of Garveyism: race first, yeah, nationhood, and self-reliance. Can race first be misinterpreted as racist? Should we or do we care? Why or why not? Open to the panel. Race first, racist. Should we care that it could be deemed as racist, or?
It can be deemed as racist, but I don't think we should care personally myself. Because everybody else in the world, that's one of Garvey's central messages. Everybody else in the world, every other people, it's just natural to look about protecting, securing the future for your own people, particularly the first people in your house, but then your wider community. That's just a natural thing. I think one philosophy or one principle of Marcus Garvey and Sister Ann Colby has already mentioned it, that I think is central to all that is sovereignty. And more than anything else, for me, what I get from Marcus Garvey's teachings is that he's teaching us to become sovereign lords, whether you're female or you're male, and it's our duty, our divine duty as sovereign lords to seek to have excellence and to look after ourselves. For Garvey, when I hear Garvey speak, if we fail to look after ourselves, we fail to look after our own community, then we are actually, as he says, creating an improper motive for God creating us or for a creator creators. So that's what he's saying fundamentally, and for us, we have to look within ourselves first. We have to look at what we are, who we are, what our aspirations are, before we can obviously start to think about what other people think or what they don't think. I think that's essential with Marcus Garvey, that it's not racism. I do get a lot of problems, as Ann Colby said, with how Marcus Garvey is portrayed in most of the rhetoric that people have in regards to Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey is far from racist. He made a statement, he loves his people. Does that make you racist? Because you're loving people. Loving your people's first, that's his principal motive, as Sister Ann Colby said as well. And this is what he taught us to do, to love ourselves. So does that make us racist? That cannot be racist. And I think if other people from other, say, ethnic backgrounds wouldn't even have that debate, they wouldn't even say anything like that. And this question would even be asked. That's just natural. It's because of our condition. I'm far from racist, but I am race first. And I get on with everybody, but anybody who, I don't care, I mean, if you're gonna challenge or affect my family, my people, I'm gonna resent that, I'm gonna stand up for them. Does that make me racist? No. I'm a defender of my people, that's what we're trying to do, and we're trying to defend our race. Does that make us aggressive? No. And people may say we're aggressive. But once we start to buy into that same narrative, that to say that we're black and we're proud to be black, or to say that we're Garveyite and we want Africa first, or we want the United States of Africa is somehow racist, and we are at fault even thinking that. It's a natural thing to us to want to be independent and self-realized. That's just natural. And so for me, I don't see it as a problem. If a person does have a problem with that, it's because they have a problem with humanity. They have a problem with people being people. And anybody who doesn't want us to be and lead our own destiny, anybody, black, white, or Indian, or whatever they are, then they are not for humanity. We are not saying that, we want to be free and everybody else to get enslaved. Garvey's not saying that. Garvey's saying, which is fundamental, that the world cannot be free. It's impossible unless we are free. So if we are not free, the world can't be free. So we can see that the world's not trying to free us, so we have to free ourselves. That's the standard.
One tiny little thing. For me, it's all about the perception and interpretation as well, because obviously for some people they might have seen that and they might have hear that race first and like, oh my goodness, what do you mean? But for me, the way I see it is when my children laugh at me, because from years ago as an actor, whenever I saw when I saw a black actor on the TV, I would be like, I'm sitting up and be like, yes, a black actor. I'm so excited. So my kids to this day will laugh at me. They say, Mom, you only just love it when the black people come on. It's not just about that, you know. But pardon? Yes, exactly, sister. So it makes me feel like bold and big, and then I put on my wrap, and then it makes me feel better. You get me? And there's a reason for that, and it speaks to what the brother was talking about. It is about self-love. So I don't, I'm not saying we change that saying at all, actually, because you just kind of schooled me a little bit there, so you kind of making me think differently. Each one different. But for me personally, being in my job, it's very multicultural, and even my family now is very, very mixed. There's so many religions. And so sometimes you could say something and it could seem divisive, it could seem hardcore. So we do shy away from things. But today, I'm going to be bold. Because I'm bold today, because I feel like it is about that feeling of when you see somebody on the TV and you go, wow, look, they look like me. And that was, for me, being able to be in my industry, it was about that. It was like, I want to be able to see other people that look like me, sound like me, walk like me, dance like me. Do you get what I'm saying? And it was so important, it was so enriching and so fulfilling to see that. So I want to say thank you for what you just said. Also, saying it in a way that is unapologetic. I know that word's bandied about, but I'm not worried about whether it's bandied about. I'm just saying you were clear and you weren't apologising for it, but you were making us understand it. So I hope the young people that are listening today are getting that vibe, because I feel blessed, man. When I come out to here today, I'm going to walk taller. I'm only 5'2", but I'm going to be 5'3".
Yes, race first, definitely yes. But race first in the context of self-reliance, self-determination, and all of that, right? Because we were enslaved only because we allowed other people to lead us, and the leadership came via religious organizations, right? You know, a lot of us are Christians, right? And a lot of us, is looking for our Savior to come back, right? And that Savior used to be, for most of us, our grandparents even, and even during slavery, our people have been looking at blue-eyed, slavery, right? So it is in that context that Marcus Garvey actually had to stipulate race first, because most of us even today are not putting race first, and even people who say race first is still not using the right strategy to show that we are putting race first. And when we put race first, we also need to start using the logics and the science and the tactics properly to get us there, because sometimes we can want to go to the moon, right? And sometimes we ride a donkey and it won't get us there, right? So we need to actually apply the technology, the science and the technology, and all that kind of thing to make sure that, our liberation comes now and not after we die, right? But
what examples of strategies can you?
Strategies, right? We talk about education, right? Education is very vital. And when we say education, we're going to have to teach our people to stop believing what I'm telling you and start critiquing and studying, and break it apart. Don't accept what I say, don't accept what Marcus Garvey said. Critique all of those things and come to your own conclusion if you prove it right or wrong, and then test it in practice. And if it works, keep replicating and keep training and developing others in those areas. We got many skills. You can talk about electronics, you can talk about telecommunication, you name it, right? All kind of knowledge is required. And when we become proficient at developing knowledge, teaching others, and putting it into practice, like how other nations are doing it, right? This is what we need to do for our race first. Right? Most people go and study and become an expert in something, and then they go to Japan, they go to China, they go to America, and they don't want to work in their country. So all of those kind of strategies is race first strategy, and it's not just a tool.
Race first, can you think that's racist? Do we care? Should we care? Why or why not?
First of all, the suffix is does not indicate something negative. We're scientists, we're dentists. It indicates proficiency. In my view, of course, hell yes, race first. Everybody else practices race first. There's only a problem when we decide to say race first. The Chinese, the Indians, the whites, they practice race first. That's why we're in this condition we're in. And we should not apologize. Why the hell are we apologizing? For what? We are the ones that's been wronged. We haven't wronged anybody. So yes, race first, but I will emphasize our biggest fight is education. If we don't wrestle education from our children, how many years has it been since Garvey? What has changed? Nothing. Nothing will change unless we educate our children. Take them out of these schools if we have to, but if you talk about reparations, that is what I want to see our efforts go into. Because education, for me, true education is the absolute key. Within 20 years, we can turn this around if we educate our babies and stop giving them over to other people to miseducate them. That's my view.
Race first, could it be misinterpreted as racist? And do you care?
I'll be honest with you, my whole thing is, I look at my community and I see we've got issues that are specific to us. We've got challenges that we need to solve which are specific to us. And it's only intelligent if we collectively work to solving these issues and solving these challenges. All the terminologies and all that, I'm very practical. Do you get what I mean? So I see problems and I'm like, okay, what's the solution? Okay, what's the plan to actually implement this solution? What's the project plan? Do we start? I don't really get into the ifs and the buts and the this and the that. What I see is challenges, like, for example, we've been doing a youth program. I was speaking to some young people today about Marcus Garvey.